Have you ever just stopped and thought about how computers and technology, well, they kind of feel like a whole other language sometimes, like you're trying to crack a code?
Yeah, it can definitely seem like that when you're first starting out.
And that's exactly what we're going to tackle today, a true deep dive into the world of computers and tech. We got some awesome beginner resources, but even if you've been using computers for years, I'm sure you'll learn something new, maybe even fill in those knowledge gaps that you didn't even know you had.
Definitely. Sometimes going back to the very beginning helps us understand the more complicated stuff.
So, when we're talking computers, we're not just picturing that desktop in your office. Think smartphones, smartwatches, those smart TVs that seem to be getting smarter every day. Game consoles, even some appliances have tiny computers inside nowadays.
It's pretty amazing how computers are basically everywhere these days, often working behind the scenes without us even realizing it.
So, what actually is a computer? Our sources describe it as this electronic device that takes information or data and processes it. It might just be ones and zeros to the computer, but somehow it turns that into those incredible movies we watch, the video games we play, even the websites we visit. Mind blowing.
What's really fascinating is that this whole process depends on this partnership between what we call hardware and software.
Exactly. Hardware is all the physical stuff, the monitor, the keyboard, all those components hidden inside.
Yeah.
And software is the brains of the operation, the instructions that tell the hardware what to do. Your web browser, that music player app you love, even your word processor, all software.
And most people, when they think of a computer, they're usually thinking about a personal computer, which comes as a desktop or a laptop.
Right, a laptop is essentially the same, but in a portable package that you can take anywhere. Now, for these personal computers, our sources mention a few key operating systems. Windows is the big one. Then there's Mac OS for Apple's Macs, and Chrome OS, which you'll find on those lightweight Chromebooks. And of course, for smartphones and tablets, it's mostly iOS on Apple devices and Android from Google. We'll be digging into those operating systems a bit later, but it's good to know the main players.
Absolutely. Understanding the landscape of operating systems helps us see how all these different programs and applications fit together.
Okay, so picture your computer right there in front of you. You've got all these buttons and ports. Let's start with those universal buttons like the power button.
Yeah, the power button, it's kind of essential, but the funny thing is it can be in all sorts of different places depending on your computer. Sometimes it's right up front. Other times it's hidden on the back. Sometimes on a laptop it's activated when you open the lid.
Right. And then you've got that power socket where you plug in the power cord to, well, power up your computer. Or on a laptop, you'll have a charging port, which does the same thing usually through an adapter.
Then there are the USB ports. These are incredibly useful. I mean, you can connect tons of different devices with them. Keyboards, printers, USB drives for storing files.
And lately I've been seeing more and more of these USB-C ports. What's the deal with those?
So USB-C is like the new kid on the block. What's great about it is that it can do a bunch of different things, not just data transfer, which it does very quickly, by the way, but also video output to external monitors and even power delivery for charging, especially on newer laptops where it's often the main charging port.
So that's why they're putting them everywhere. Makes sense. Now, for connecting to a monitor, especially with a desktop setup, we've got monitor ports. Our sources mention HDMI as the most common one, along with that USB-C showing up again. What about those other ones, like VGA and DVI? I always get those confused.
Yes, VGA and DVI. Those are older standards. You might still see them on older monitors or computers,
Huh.
but HDMI and USB-C are definitely the way to go now. And of course, with laptops, it really depends on what ports your specific laptop and monitor have, whether it's HDMI, USB-C, or something else entirely.
Gotcha. And if you're a fan of that good old wired internet connection, we've got the Ethernet port.
Right, that gives you a direct physical connection to your modem or router using an Ethernet cable, which can sometimes be more reliable than Wi-Fi, especially if you have a lot of wireless interference.
And for those who like their music or podcasts, what about connecting headphones or external speakers?
For wired audio, you'll usually have an audio jack, usually a small round one, often color-coded green. You plug your headphones or speakers in there. Some newer devices might connect through USB, though.
Now, our sources briefly mention disk drives, for CDs, DVDs, and Blu-rays. Are those still a standard feature these days?
Not really. With everything moving to streaming and downloads, a lot of computers, especially laptops, don't even include them anymore.
And then there are those other ports that are meant for connecting older peripherals.
Yeah, those are legacy ports for older mice and keyboards. You'll mostly find them on older systems. Pretty much everything connects through USB or wirelessly these days.
All right, so that covers the outside of the computer. Let's take a peek inside, under the hood, as they say, and talk about those essential internal components.
So first up is the computer case itself. This is the box that holds and protects all the main parts of your computer. The sources mention the tower case as a common design, but they actually come in all sorts of shapes and sizes.
And of course, we need a monitor to see what our computer is doing. That's where the visuals come from.
Exactly. The monitor acts as a window into the digital world, letting us see everything our computer is doing. Most modern monitors use LCD or LED technology, which makes them thin and energy efficient. You've also got all-in-one computers, where the monitor and computer are combined into one unit.
Now, how do we actually tell the computer what we want it to do? Enter those essential input devices.
Right, we've got keyboards and mice, the classic combo. Keyboards come in all sorts of varieties these days, wireless ones for a cleaner look, even ergonomic ones for those who want extra comfort. And the mouse controls that cursor on the screen. Laptops usually have a built-in touchpad that acts as the mouse.
So let's say we open up that computer case. What's the first major component we're likely to see?
That would be the motherboard. Think of it like the central nervous system of the computer. It's the main circuit board that connects all the essential components and allows them to communicate with each other.
And then there's the CPU, the processor, right?
Yep, the CPU or central process unit, the brain as they call it, it executes instructions, does all the heavy lifting, crunching numbers, and making sure everything runs smoothly. It tends to generate heat, so it usually has a heat sink attached to keep it cool.
And then there's RAM, random access memory. What's it do exactly?
So RAM is like the computer's short-term memory. It's incredibly fast and is used when the computer's actively working on something. But it's temporary storage. When you turn off the computer, everything in RAM disappears.
So if RAM is the short-term memory, where do our files actually live long-term? Our photos, documents, all that good stuff.
That's where the hard drive comes in. That's long-term storage. It keeps everything safe even when the computer's off. Traditionally, hard drives used spinning disks, but now a lot of newer computers use solid-state drives, or SSDs. They're much faster and more durable because there are no moving parts.
And if someone wants to upgrade their desktop later on, our sources mention these expansion slots on the motherboard. What are those for?
Ah, yes, expansion slots. Those are for adding in expansion cards to give your computer extra capabilities. For example, you might install a video card to get better graphics performance for gaming or video editing, or add a wireless network card if you want Wi-Fi and don't have it already. Laptops usually don't have those expansion slots because they're so compact.
Of course, we need power to make all these components run.
Right, and that's where the power supply unit, or PSU, comes in. It takes the power from your wall outlet and converts it to the right type of power that your computer needs. Laptops also have an internal battery, which is pretty handy for working on the go.
Okay, so we've covered individual parts, but how do laptops actually compare to desktops in everyday use?
Well, the biggest difference is portability. Laptops are designed to be portable, they're compact, lightweight, and have everything built in. That means setting up a laptop is as simple as opening it up.
But there must be some trade-offs, right?
Yeah, laptops often have smaller screens than desktop monitors.
Oh, no.
But you can connect most laptops to an external monitor if you need more screen space. And of course, laptops have that built-in battery, which is great for when you're on the move. They also have a built-in touchpad for controlling the cursor, but you can always connect an external mouse if you prefer.
What about when it comes to customization or upgrading?
With desktops, you have more freedom to choose individual components like the monitor, keyboard, mouse. You can even upgrade components more easily. Laptops are less flexible when it comes to upgrading those internal parts. But most laptops do have ports that let you connect external devices, so you can still customize your setup to some extent.
Now, let's switch gears and talk about software, starting with those all-important operating systems. What exactly is an operating system in layman's terms?
You can think of the operating system, or OS, as the foundation of your computer's software. It's the bridge between you and the hardware, translating your commands into instructions the computer can understand.
And we mentioned some of the big names in the OS world earlier.
Right, for desktops and laptops, it's mainly Windows and macOS. Windows is what you'll find on most PCs, while macOS is exclusive to Apple's Macs. And for mobile devices, it's all about iOS on Apple devices and Android on pretty much everything else.
Now, when you're thinking about getting new software for your computer, there's something our sources say to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Not all programs are compatible with every operating system. Some are, but others are designed to work with only one specific OS. So always double-check the system requirements before you download or buy any software.
Okay, so the OS is the base layer, and on top of that, we have applications, or as most of us call them, apps. What are apps all about?
Apps are basically programs that let you do specific things on your devices, your phone, tablet, or computer. They let you get work done, stay connected, play games, all sorts of things.
Could you give us a few examples of apps that we might use every day?
Sure. On your phone, you might use Google Maps to find a coffee shop. On your computer, you might use Microsoft Word to write a document, or your web browser to check your email and browse the web.
And where do we actually get these apps?
Some come pre-installed on your devices, but you can also download or buy them online, either through app stores like the Apple App Store or Google Play Store, or sometimes directly from the developer's website.
All right, let's say someone just got a brand new desktop computer. Setting it up for the first time can be a little daunting, but our sources actually have a step-by-step guide.
They do. First, unpack everything. Take off all that protective plastic. Before you start plugging things in, take a minute to think about how you want to arrange everything.
A little planning goes a long way. What comes next?
Next, connect your monitor. Find the right cable, usually HDMI or USB-C these days, but older monitors might use VGA or DVI. Plug one end into the back of your computer and the other into your monitor. If you have an all-in-one, you can skip this step.
Now we need to connect those input devices so we can actually use the computer.
You got it. For wired keyboards and mice, just plug them into any available USB port. If you have wireless ones, you might need to plug in a small USB adapter or use Bluetooth. You'll probably need to pair the devices too, so check the instructions that came with them.
And what about getting some sound? How do we connect our speakers or headphones?
For wired speakers or headphones, look for the audio jack on the back or front of your computer. It's usually green. Some audio devices might use a USB connection, though.
And the final step in the setup process, the power.
Yes, you'll have two power cables, one for your monitor and one for your computer. Plug those into your surge protector. Our sources really emphasize using a surge protector to protect your equipment, and then plug the surge protector into the wall outlet. Give everything a quick check to make sure no cables are hanging loose, and you're ready to press that power button.
Now, a computer isn't much use without an internet connection. Our sources break down all the different types of home internet connections that are available.
Right. We've got dial-up, which is the oldest type. It's slow, but it's pretty much available everywhere. Then there's DSL, which is faster and uses your phone line. Cable internet uses the same cable as your TV. It's another popular choice and can be quite fast. Fiber optic is the newest technology. It's blazing fast, but it's not available everywhere yet, and it can be pricey. And then you have cellular internet, which uses 4G, LTE, or 5G networks. It can be a good option if you have strong cellular signal in your area.
Once you've decided what kind of connection you want, what's next?
You'll need to choose an internet service provider, an ISP, and sign up for a plan. A lot of phone and cable companies offer internet service, but it's always good to shop around for the best deal. Usually your ISP will provide you with a modem, which connects your home network to their internet service. You can usually rent a modem or buy your own.
And how do we actually get our computer online through that modem?
The easiest way is to use an Ethernet cable to connect your computer directly to the modem. That gives you a wired connection. But most people want to connect multiple devices wirelessly. For that, you'll need a wireless router. The router takes the signal from your modem and creates a Wi-Fi network for your home. Sometimes your ISP might give you a single device that acts as both a modem and router.
Setting up a Wi-Fi network sounds like a whole process in itself.
It can be, but most routers have a setup wizard that walks you through it. You usually start by connecting your computer to the router with an Ethernet cable and then accessing the router's configuration page in your web browser. There, you'll create a network name and a strong password to protect your network. The sources emphasize using WPA2 or WPA3 encryption for the strongest security. Once your Wi-Fi is set up, you can connect all your devices by entering the network name and password. If you have devices that don't have Wi-Fi built in, you can connect them to the router with an Ethernet cable or get a wireless adapter card.
Now let's talk about something that many of us use without really understanding it, the cloud. What is the cloud?
Simply put, the cloud is storing your data documents, photos, videos, all that on servers somewhere out there on the internet, instead of on your computer's hard drive. It's like having a virtual storage space that you can access from anywhere.
And how do we actually use the cloud?
We use it through what are called cloud-based applications. Some of these run entirely within your web browser, those are called web apps, while others are apps that you install, but they synchronize your data with the cloud. A good example is Google Docs. You can create and edit documents online and access them from any device. Cloud storage services like Google Photos or Dropbox let you store your photos online and access them anywhere.
What are some of the big benefits of using the cloud?
The biggest one is accessibility. You can get to your files from anywhere you have an internet connection. It also makes sharing files and collaborating with others super easy. And it protects your data even if your computer crashes or gets stolen, your data is safe in the cloud. There are also cloud backup services like iDrive or Backblaze that automatically back up your entire computer to the cloud.
Okay, time to get a little more hands-on. Let's talk about cleaning our computers. It's more than just making things look neat, right?
Yeah, cleaning your computer can actually improve its performance. Dust and dirt buildup can block airflow and cause overheating. But you have to be careful how you clean it.
What's the most important thing to remember before you start cleaning?
Always turn off and unplug your computer first. That's for your safety and to prevent any electrical damage.
Okay, let's start with the keyboard, which is probably the dirtiest part.
First, turn it upside down and shake it out. Then you can use compressed air to get rid of those stubborn crumbs between the keys. For the keycaps themselves, use a slightly damp cloth with a little rubbing alcohol, but never pour any liquid directly onto the keyboard. If you spill something on it, turn it off and unplug it immediately. Then turn it upside down and let any excess liquid drain out. For sticky spills, you might be able to rinse it gently with water, but then let it dry completely for at least 2 days before plugging it back in. But honestly, prevention is best.
And what about cleaning the mouse? Is it different for optical mice and mechanical mice?
Yeah, it is. Optical mice, which are the most common type now, don't really need much cleaning. Just check the optical sensor on the bottom and wipe it with a dry cloth if it's dusty. Mechanical mice have a tracking ball that can get dirty, so you'll need to unplug it, open it up, and clean the ball and the inside. You can use a little rubbing alcohol for that, too.
How do we clean the monitor screen? That seems like a sensitive spot.
Definitely. Never spray anything directly on the screen. And avoid using regular glass cleaner. It can damage the special coating. Unplug the monitor, then wipe it gently with a soft, slightly damp cloth.
What about cleaning the computer case and the back of the monitor? They get dusty, too.
Yeah, just wipe them down with a dry cloth. You can use compressed air to clean the ventilation fans. Avoid spraying anything directly on them. If you need to, spray a little glass cleaner on a cloth and then wipe them down. Some people also use a very diluted ammonia solution, but be careful with that. And remember, airflow is important. Make sure nothing is blocking your computer's ventilation fans so it can stay cool.
Now, we've talked about keeping our computers clean, but keeping them safe is even more important. What are some of the things we need to know about computer safety?
One of the biggest threats is malware, things like viruses, spyware, and ransomware. They could really mess up your computer and even steal your personal information. And it doesn't matter if you're using Windows, Mac OS, or Chrome OS, any computer can be affected.
So how do we protect ourselves from those nasty things?
The first thing is to have good antivirus software. Kaspersky, Norton, and Windows Defender are some good options. Make sure you keep it updated. You also need to be careful what you click on and download. Avoid suspicious websites and email attachments from people you don't know. It's also super important to keep your operating system updated because those updates often include security patches.
And what if something does happen? How can we make sure we don't lose all our important files?
Backups are your best friend. You can use an external hard drive and back up your data regularly. Or use an online backup service like iDrive or Carbonite. They automatically back up your data to the cloud, so even if your computer is completely destroyed, your files are safe.
Now let's talk about ergonomics. We spend so much time at our computers, we need to make sure we're comfortable and not hurting ourselves.
Yeah, ergonomics is all about making your workspace comfortable and efficient so you don't end up with aches and pains.
So what are some key things to keep in mind when setting up our workspace?
You want to pay attention to keyboard positioning. Your wrists should be straight. If you have any discomfort, try an ergonomic keyboard or a wrist rest. Adjust your chair so your elbows are at a 90-degree angle, and use a footrest if your feet don't touch the floor. When you're sitting, try to maintain good posture and use the lumbar support on your chair if it has one. Your monitor should be about an arm's length away, and the top of the screen should be level with your eyes. If you use a laptop a lot, an external monitor, keyboard, and mouse can really help.
Anything else?
Make sure your screen brightness is comfortable, not too bright or too dim. A lot of devices have a night mode feature that reduces blue light, which can be helpful. And the most important thing is to take breaks. Get up and move around every hour, stretch, walk around. Your body will thank you.
Let's move on to internet safety, specifically when we're browsing the web. What are some ways our web browsers help keep us safe?
Browsers have a lot of built-in security features, but it's important to be aware of them. Always check the domain name in the address bar to make sure you're on the right website. And pay attention to any warning messages that your browser might display. You'll often see a little padlock icon in the address bar. That means the connection is secure, which is especially important when you're doing things like online banking. Also, make sure your browser is always updated because those updates often include security fixes.
What about general internet safety beyond just the browser?
Email spam is a big one. Thankfully, most email providers have spam filters. It's a good idea to check your spam folder occasionally to make sure legitimate emails aren't ending up there. You can also adjust your spam filter settings. Then there's phishing. Those are emails that try to trick you into giving away personal information. Never click on links in emails from senders you don't recognize or something seems fishy. If you think it might be legitimate, go to the website directly by typing the address in your browser.
Anything else we need to watch out for?
Oh yeah, be aware that a lot of websites track your online activity. They use things like cookies and analyze your social media activity to create a profile of you and target you with ads. There are things you can do to limit this, like adjusting your cookie settings, but it's tough to completely eliminate it.
Now let's get back to actually using our computers. How do we navigate Windows, which is the most popular operating system?
So when you start up a Windows computer, you'll see the desktop, which is where you'll find your icons and shortcuts. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the taskbar, which contains the Start button and icons for open programs. Clicking on the Start button gives you access to all your applications, files, and settings. To open a program or file, just double-click on its icon. Each open item will appear in its own window. You can move windows around by clicking and dragging the title bar, and you can switch between windows by clicking on their icons on the taskbar.
And how is macOS different?
In Mac OS, the menu bar is at the top of the screen, and at the bottom you have the dock, which is similar to the taskbar in Windows. You can open programs and folders from the dock. To close a program, you usually click on its name in the menu bar and select Quit. The Apple icon in the top left corner gives you access to system preferences, recent items, and options to restart or shut down your computer. You can also search your entire computer using Spotlight, which is accessed by clicking the magnifying glass icon. Notification Center shows you alerts from different apps, like calendar reminders and messages.
Anything else about macOS that's unique?
macOS has natural scrolling, which means scrolling works in the opposite direction to Windows. And there are also a bunch of multi-touch gestures you can use on the trackpad that are worth checking out.
And finally, let's talk about web browsers, our gateway to the internet.
A web browser is what you use to visit websites. There are a lot of different browsers, like Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and Edge. You type the website address into the address bar at the top, and the browser will often offer suggestions based on your history and bookmarks. You can navigate between pages by clicking links and use the back and forward buttons to go back and forth. You can open links in new tabs so you don't have to leave the page you're on. And if you find a website you like, you can save it as a bookmark to easily find it again later.
Wow, that was quite a journey. We've really covered the basics of computers, from hardware to software, from desktops to laptops, operating systems, applications, internet connections, the cloud, cleaning and safety, and even navigating Windows and macOS.
It was a comprehensive overview indeed, hopefully giving everyone a solid foundation in computer technology.
And we hope this deep dive has given you the confidence to explore the digital world even more. Now that we've covered so much, what aspect of computer technology are you most curious about? What new questions do you have? We encourage you to keep learning and discovering all that the world of technology has to offer.